I've gone through some extremely painful, transformative processes in my life and challenges, but I am kind of calling out at this time for things to be of more ease. And it's really fun because I've entered into a group that does medicine with a really amazing shaman, and she is so kind of practical. She's like, it doesn't have to be so hard. Let's get down to the brass tacks here. And okay, something isn't on balance. Let's just look at it and And I'm just like, okay, isn't this lovely? It doesn't have to be so painful. And even then, I still have those painful moments. I was driving here, trying to get here on time, and everyone's going to know what the situation is, but I was having such an issue with my car. But at the same time, I was coming from such a beautiful experience with a dear friend. It was his birthday yesterday. And this is so interesting. It's like we're doing all these celebrating and newness together. And I was having this beautiful experience there. But at the same time, I was kind of caught up in this idea of I wanted to give him a beautiful gift. And like it wasn't turning out that way. And I realized, I'm like, Gwen, get over yourself. Like there was this part of me that was, all of these old stories were coming up of, being afraid I wasn't being seen as giving, or, these kinds of things were happening. And I was hearing them inside of myself. And as I was driving, I got to remind myself, this is something that was really cool. I got to remind myself of something. I said, oh, that's what I felt at one time. Instead of holding on to it and trying to cling to the story and mess around with it and try to figure it out. It's like, oh, that is what I felt at one time. And, and breathe and just allow it to move through me and be glad and happy. I'm in a different place right now. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And it was such a refreshing and easeful way of allowing the past to be the past. And I could see it, and I could have a tear running down my face, and that was okay. But I didn't have to like jump in and try to resolve something that was like, oh, okay, that was how I felt at one time. And I can acknowledge that. And thank you. And I'm so glad I'm not in the same space right now. And then I would remind myself of what the now was, of the beauty of what the now was. And so I'm like learning more and more how to manage that, I think, with myself and love. And I think I'm hoping that we're all able to do that. And I don't know, this is an exciting thing for me to talk about. Are there ways for you that you enter in and you let go of the old and you've been able to renew yourself and just step into that newness of you? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, I was so amazed hearing you share all that, because I think what I really want to be mindful of when I say about, entering this new paradigm where we don't have to suffer for our transformation, I think that could be misconstrued as, oh, that means we never have challenging feelings, or if they come up, they're bad and we need to push them away, and which of course we know would create more suffering. But it's really what you just described. It's these, like you use the word parts, right? That's the type of coaching I do, is actually parts work. So it's like, yeah, these parts come up responding to a situation in the now, right? And we get to hear, there's different words for it, the old programming, the old story, the old response. And that's the moment right there, right? Where the grace, the anchoring of the new timeline, the up leveling, whatever we call it, can come. And it is always through compassion, right? And yeah, we don't have to like jump into this long, deep story of it. I mean, there will still be times when that happens, of course. But I think that as we go through our day, there's so many instances now where, just like very similar to what you shared, where something will come up and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like this like old pain, and it can feel quite acute. It's like, but then getting into the spaciousness of my soul is something I've really been practicing. I really feel the Divine Mother's been mentoring me in that, of like recognizing, because I had a lot of trauma growing up, and there was a lot of like kind of like warrioress energy of like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And not that I didn't process things. I was very blessed that throughout my journey I found therapists or coaches or people to support me. But I also had 5 children and was working and had a lot that was going on. So there was a lot of just kind of like taking action that I had to do. And so now I'm still taking action, but what the Divine Mother in the form of Mother Mary, I would call her an ascended master that I work with very closely. She's really teaching me how to, when those triggers happen, to even as simple as bringing my hands to my heart and just remind myself how I'm so much bigger than whatever pain I'm feeling. That it's okay. Like,
Mhm.
for me to feel sad. It's safe for me to feel the unknown, as we were like, that's something I've been really practicing the last few weeks or 2 months, really very acutely. And because I recognize that, because in the past I didn't have the capacity I do now, those emotions were so overwhelming. Like but now it's like they can feel overwhelming, but I can still pause and just kind of remind myself of that, like, oh, it's okay. Like, my
Mhm.
body, as I connect with my soul, can have this big emotion in my body and then let it move through. Like,
Mhm.
it's almost like releasing the fear of those. For me, it was like shame, grief, panic, like those, those were like the emotions that, like, if they come up in my body, even like last year, I think I would be like, okay, I need to go take a walk. I need to go. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Like, that is, but now what I'm being guided to do more and more is pause and actually let myself be. Like, it's like Mother
Mhm.
Mary saying, like, see how big your capacity is. Like, know
Yes.
how increased your capacity is to be with this